There's been some leaked audio of Real Madrid president Florentino Perez criticising club legends, among them Cristiano Ronaldo. Perez said he's mad. The chap is an imbecile. He's ill. Do you think this chap is normal? He's not normal. Otherwise, he wouldn't do the things he does. The last foolish thing he did, everyone around the world saw it. Why do you think he does that foolish thing? Now, that was in 2012. We won't speculate as to what the foolish thing
but it was. Foolish.
But it was foolish in Florentino Perez's eyes, and maybe it's been foolish for him to talk the way he has been, Sid, because this has been leaked. It's very interesting, though, that it's this and more of him criticising club legends like Raul, Iker Casillas as well. Jose Mourinho's names come into it. What's been the reaction there in Spain, and why has this come out now?
Those are quite difficult questions, particularly the question of as to why this has come out now. I think why it's come out now is because Abiyan, who is a radio broadcaster who'd recorded this, had been, I think, looking for a place to place this for quite a while. Quite why it's taken this long, quite why it's happened now, I think is difficult to really put your finger on. I must confess, I think the reaction from most people to begin with was that this was, and I shouldn't really say this, but I think most people felt this was actually really quite funny. Some of these things, or really quite unpleasant. There was a sense that it was potentially damaging, but I think a lot of people have come to Florentino's side, which is not entirely surprising, and said that they think it's wrong that a private conversation has been published like this. I think for a lot of people in the media, and I include myself in this, what this really did was basically publicly confirm something that people knew. That people knew that Florentino Perez, despite that very cold, very serious kind of exterior, that facade, was very, very critical of people at the club for a very long time, and has been. In fact, remember, of course, the circumstances of Zidane's recent departure, in which he wrote a letter in which he said very publicly that he felt he didn't have the support of the club and that things were said about him behind his back. This, I think, what it shows you, of course, is that is something that is ongoing, something that has happened very often. Now, obviously, there are all sorts of questions about the morality of publishing these conversations, but I think it's quite damaging in terms of the things that Florentino Perez said, even though the recordings are so old. And bear in mind as well that the first big hit of these recordings was about Raul. And that particular recording is really significant because Raul is currently the B team coach, so that really damages him. The other player that was really criticised in that first recording released was Iker Casillas, who currently works for the club's charitable foundation. So you've got two people who work for the club who are still with Florentino Perez, listening to and hearing very publicly these kind of attacks made upon them.
Yeah, and the attacks on those two players said that they were the biggest frauds at the club, and that Casillas wasn't good enough to be the goalkeeper. What does this do to players looking at maybe wanting a move to Real Madrid? Would it put them off?
I think it's far enough back where you don't actually make the connection. Plus, there is a certain arrogance to players at a high level that would say, well, that's nothing to do with me. If you come in after me with this sort of talent, those conversations are not going to take place with me. And that's the biggest mistake that you can make. Because if he's saying this about Ronaldo, Raul, and Casillas, it doesn't matter who you are. You step into that locker room and you don't do your job, this guy's going to talk about you. And we've known this. This is only confirmation, as Sid just mentioned. We've known this. If you watch Galácticos, the documentary, these things are prevalent with Florentino Perez, in that he starts going after some of the big names in the locker room because those are the people that threaten his power and his authority. And this is typical stuff. You don't go after the guy who's fourth off the bench. No. You start going after the big guys, the big names. Those are the guys that can threaten you in the future. And so therefore you establish that sense of power. Look, I'm the boss. I make the decisions. These guys are merely my employees. And to your initial question, if guys do their homework, yeah, they should be concerned about the fact that their boss essentially is saying things about other players that are just as good or better than you are historically in the game.
Because the word is Kylian Mbappe is desperate to go to Real Madrid, but also he idolises Cristiano Ronaldo, as we've seen with those pictures of him in his bedroom with Cristiano Ronaldo on the wall. Do you think that could cause problems for a move like that?
No, not at all. Kylian Mbappe doesn't care what Perez thinks. He just wants to be with Benzema, and he wants to go in the footsteps, put the shoes on of Ronaldo. You know, do you think he's the first and last chairman that's ever slaughtered all the players behind closed doors? I mean, and again, you know, Sid's saying that Raul and Casillas are still there. This will be dealt with very easily. They'll go and chap on his door and say, what's this? And he'll say, you know what? Obviously, I said I was fed up at the time. We weren't doing well. Things were going bad. You know, I was venting. Don't worry about it. And they're just going to go, that's fine.
Yeah.
So as far as those two are concerned, they will not be bothered one iota, as Mbappe won't be either.
Well, and here's the thing. Florentino Perez, as you say, will bring this guys into the office. Hey, look, you know, this sort of thing happen. Hey. Because if one thing that you can say about Florentino Perez, he's not dumb, right? This is an intelligent man. This is a very smart man. How he goes about his business is a little different. And how he goes about talking about his most important assets, that's a little different. But it doesn't mean that he cannot have a good conversation with these guys and make them feel like the most important part of the club. Look, you guys are part of the history of this organization, of this club, and you're going to be part of it.
It's an easy sell.
Oh,
well,
look,
it's an
easy
look at the
sell.
great work you're doing right now. And we're leaning on you to build on the future of this club.
He did say they've been taken out of context. I'm not sure how those links. I'm not sure how they'll be taken out of context. But what do you think there will be any consequences to this, Sid?
Well, I think there's another really simple part to add to what Ali and Steve are saying, which is that I don't even think that Florentino Perez necessarily needs to say to him, listen, it's okay, you're part of the history of the club, it's fine, I was annoyed. He doesn't need to say that for one very simple reason. He didn't like them then when he said that. He may still not like them. They didn't like him when he said that. They may still not like him. They knew that he said these kind of things. You know, let's go back to what Zidane said in this letter. People are aware of this. People are aware, and this is one of the things that annoys them. But even if it does annoy them, and I have no doubt that it does, they could walk away now. But why don't they? Well, because Florentino Perez holds the key to the Bernabeu. If you want to be at Real Madrid, this is what you do. You know, this is your boss. So when your boss slags you off, you swallow it and you carry on, unless there's an alternative, unless there's a better place to go. And of course, from the point of view of these two people, there is no better place to be than the Santiago Bernabeu. And I must confess, over the last couple of days, there's been a few times when I've thought to myself, where's your self-esteem? Where's your sense of your own importance? Why aren't you marching into that office and saying, right, I've had enough of this, I'm going? The answer, I think, is very simple. You want to stay at Real Madrid? There you go.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN Plus.